Record. Okay. So super excited to come to you guys tonight with this particular call as it relates to how sacrifice and commitment can help you achieve true success, y'all. I cannot express to you enough how over the past probably 4 to 6 months, I have really started to get my wheels turning about a couple things that I think are crucial in this business. And I see a lot of people who end up falling off the bandwagon because of one, mindset, and number two, people just don't have the right mindset about what it means to work hard and make sacrifices for a long-term gain. And so that is what I'm going to talk to you guys about tonight. So I'm going to just start out with a couple statistics. Did you know that 66% of adults in our country are overweight and 31% of adults are obese? And obese means like you're morbidly obese. That means that you are way above, like most of us are overweight, like I'm overweight, right? Above the natural BMI. It's very easy to be overweight, right? But obese is something different. But a third of our country is obese, right? Did you know that the divorce rate for first marriages in our country is 41%? And the rate for second marriages soars to a whopping 60%. So guess what this tells me, y'all? This tells me that we are conditioned to believe that it's normal and that it's almost like it's moral. It's a good thing to pursue immediate satisfaction and that difficulties cannot be circumvented, right? Like that we can't overcome things. That's the reason why our divorce rate's so high. It's the reason why we have so many people that just say, to heck with my health. I'm just going to eat whatever. I'm just going to live my life. And when the Lord brings me home is when he brings me home, right? We don't want to make many sacrifices. And honestly, y'all, in our country, many of us never have to. I know that some of y'all think, oh, I've made some sacrifices, but when you compare your sacrifices to the sacrifices of people in most other countries in the world, we don't make sacrifices even, right? We don't even have to make any sacrifices. And so we have no accountability, y'all, because we all allow each other to get away with debt. Like it's normal in this country to have debt, right? That's a normal thing. It's normal to have debt. It's normal to be indulgent and it's normal to procrastinate. That's just kind of what we accept as normal in this country. And so we want everything now and we want it without earning it many times. And so did y'all know this is what's going to be most mind blowing to you? I literally my head almost popped off of my neck when I read this. Did you know that most people in the world today have read fewer than 5 books cover to cover in their entire lifetime?
Wow. No.
5. Do y'all hear me? 5 in their entire lifetime.
That's
According to one major publisher, y'all, 95% of all books that are purchased are ever completely read. So that means 95% of books that are purchased, they're never completely read. Like you may start it, but 95% of people never finish the book. And you should be excited if you're a part of this community because at least we're starting books. Some of you may not finish, but at least we're starting books, right? And it's usually going to be more than 5%. So you're starting more and you're definitely reading more than 5 books in your lifetime if you're on this team. So that's a blessing. But guess what, y'all? This is the worst. 70% of all books ever purchased. Hold on, I gotta let people in, keep letting people in.
Oh, I'm gonna let him. I got him.
Okay. 70% of all books ever purchased are ever even opened. Do y'all understand how bad this is? Like, so we're putting things in our Amazon cart, and some of y'all probably convict you, like, yeah, I got a ton of books and I've never even opened. I'm a voracious reader and I have books that I've never opened because there's so many books. It's like I can't even keep up. Like I'd have to be reading all day long. And so 70% of all books that are ever purchased are ever even they're never opened. Like they never even get touched. They get ordered, they're sitting in someone's bookshelf, but they're never touched. So instead of reading books, y'all, we'd rather read the Cliff Notes. Instead of changing our diets, we'd rather get the latest fitness contraption or get the quick fix or the weight loss surgery, whatever it is. Instead of budgeting our money, we'd rather play the lottery or charge up our credit card. And so our society, honestly, y'all, we've been conditioned to take the easier path. We are always looking for the easier way, the way where things will come to us so we don't have to really work hard. This is just the way of the world now. And so, honest question for all of you: how many of you have gotten wrapped up into this thinking at some point in your life? You're like, this should be easier. It's not. And so I'm done. Like, I'm out. It should be easier than this. I'm not going to. Has anybody ever been guilty of that? I know I have been on many different things. Okay. The bottom line is that somehow people have come to this conclusion that you can have it all without having to sacrifice, without having to have discipline, and without working hard. And guys, that is just not true. And so I don't know about y'all, but I'm not prepared. I'm personally not prepared to leave my life success up to chance. Are you? Are y'all willing to leave your life success, the legacy that you can leave to your family? Are you willing to leave that up to chance? If you're not willing to leave it to chance, then you have to learn some of these success principles and you have to actually grow in this area, because if you don't, you're going to fall into the statistic with most of the people that I just described, right? And many of us have been there. Many of us are still there, and we're trying to like climb our way out of it, right? So that's really my purpose of the call tonight, right? It's one of the reasons, though, why I love network marketing. Like, I literally love this industry. I specifically love direct sales because in this industry, you're part of a culture that really breeds success because it exposes people to important life principles. I don't know about y'all, but how many of you in your normal day job? I've had many, many jobs. I was a home-based family therapist. I've worked with adjudicated youth. I ran a group home. I was a teacher. I was an instructional specialist. I was assistant principal. I've done many different jobs. And not one of my careers have I ever been exposed to this much personal growth and development. Can anybody relate to that? Never. I've never been exposed to this many life principles ever in my life before network marketing. And so it's the principles that you need that give people like me and you a platform to build something that can be ours and something we can leave to our families when you would not have been normally able to do so, right? Without either going to a lot of debt or taking a huge risk, right? And so I also never thought I'd say this, but I read this somewhere, and that this author worded this so much more eloquently than I could, but I was really like, gosh, well, there's something about this act of selling that I like, that I actually enjoy. And I never thought I would say I like to sell, right? But there's something about selling, and this act of selling, and this is what I read, that I'm not even going to try to like rephrase it. I'm just going to read it. This act of selling, it's like a condensed version of the highs and lows of real life, right? Because real life is not this rhythm of classroom-based instruction. A lot of people, we went to school our whole life and we were used to having straightforward assignments. We had these detailed lesson plans, and that we gradually would lead, it would gradually lead up to us having some sort of like test, right? And so you have this time where you're taught, you study, you prepare, then you have a test, right? You were taught, you studied, you prepare, you'd have a test. But real life is not like that, y'all. Real life is this constant barrage of dealing with a lot of self-doubt, dealing with overcoming a lot of rejection. Real life is about conquering unexpected challenges and then bouncing back from these disappointments that happen over and over and over again, y'all. That is real life. And so sadly, those are the skills that are rarely taught in school, and they aren't properly developed within us when we're kids, when we're young. And so too often we have grown-ups, you and me, who don't have the abilities to successfully navigate the real world because we were never taught any of these life principles. And that's why I love network marketing so much, is that you are becoming intentional about learning those life principles that really do breed success within people. Okay. So at the end of the day, y'all, success is not easy. It isn't overnight. Success is not ordinary. And successful people have to do all the things that they didn't feel like doing in order to get where they were to where they are. That's just the bottom line. There is no secret, right? The secret is hard work, persistence, and discipline, right? And faith. That is it. That's the secret. And so success means we have to develop these self disciplines and we have to get ourselves to do the things that we don't want to do. We have to get ourselves to do these things we don't want to do. And it's not that successful people even find it easier to do the things that most people don't like doing. Successful people don't find those things to be more enjoyable. It's that they think differently about it. And so it's successful people, they do the hardest things as soon as possible. Guess what? So they can get whatever they want in life as soon as possible. Y'all, I knew that I could just stay in my safe space as an assistant principal for the next 30 years, and I would probably have a guaranteed income. It probably wouldn't fluctuate much at all. It would be a sure thing, but I would be stuck with my 10 personal days a year, my 10 vacation days a year. I'd be stuck in working within a building with, 4 walls and no windows of an office. I would have to do that for the next 30 years. Or I could have taken a chance, taken a leap of faith, and decided, guess what, guys? I'm going to do things that most people don't want to do, right? So that I can get the life that most people will never have as soon as I possibly can. I didn't want to wait another 20, 30 years to get there. I was willing to make the sacrifices for 7 years to get there, though. And I'm still working because I'm still not done. And so it's just really, really important that you think about, imagine what you could accomplish if you could get yourself to follow through on your best intentions, no matter what. I want you to comment in the comments here in the chat. I want you to imagine what you could accomplish if you could get yourself to do the things, to follow through on the things that you know you need to do, and to make your best intentions, right? And doing those things no matter what, right? No matter what. What would your life look like? How would it be different from now, right? I know for a fact that the supreme payoff of self-discipline, it's that when you make this conscious decision to do something, and you know before you begin that if you are going to stick with it, that success is virtually guaranteed. That's how I got to Diamond. I knew that if I stuck with this long enough, it was pretty much a sure of like a 95% chance. And there's actually a statistic around that. Can everybody make sure they mute themselves? I knew that there was a super high chance that I would make it to the top if I just didn't quit. If I did it consistently, if I was persistent in my efforts and I never quit, that I would eventually make it. And that's how successful people think. That's just how they think. They know that that's the supreme payoff because they'd rather do that than not follow through on some easier decisions because they're willing to make the sacrifices on the front end instead of making sacrifices and not living the life that they want on the back end, right? I once read, y'all, that procrastination and indulgence is nothing more than creditors who charge us interest. How many of y'all believe that? That procrastination is nothing more than you having to pay interest on creditors, that they're giving you, they're charging you interest on time that you're just wasting week after week, month after month, year after year, right? Self-discipline, honestly, guys, can empower you to overcome any addiction. It can help you to lose any amount of weight that you want. It can allow you to build the life of your dreams. There's so many things that self-discipline can do, and you have to commit yourself to, whether it's one daily discipline. If you get off this call tonight, you're like, there is one thing that I need to do better in my business. There may be many things, but if you just commit to one thing doing better, I guarantee I'm going to start posting more. I'm going to actually start following through with making my reach outs. I'm going to commit to making sure that I do good customer care every Friday for follow-up Friday. Whatever it is, guys, make a commitment today that you're going to do something consistently, no matter what, non-negotiable in your business. And I can guarantee you in 6 months, if you do that with fidelity, you will see a shift in your business. You will. Now, will you see as big of a shift than if you were to make 3 or 4 changes or 4 or 5 changes in your business? Obviously not. But if all you can do is one thing, do that one thing. I encourage you to do more, but if all you can do is one thing, do that one thing, right? What self-discipline does, y'all, is it literally wipes out procrastination. It wipes out disorder in your life. How many of y'all feel like you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off because you're always like waiting till the last minute, or you're always like down to the wire on things because you're putting off things because you're distracted, or because it's just that's just your way of life. That's just the way you operate. But disorder, distraction, all those things can be wiped out through self-discipline. It literally, self-discipline can change the course of your career. It can change the path of your financial future, and it can change the trajectory for the rest of your entire life. Y'all, I feel really convicted about the fact that we have tons of our friends like us in our community, in your own sphere of influence. We all have tons of family members. We all have tons of friends. We all have tons of coworkers who are losing in life due to distraction, due to temptation, due to creative avoidance. Yes, that is a thing. How many of you suffer from creative avoidance? Like you avoid. I have people that literally avoid doing basic things in their business, like they won't turn in a goal sheet, or they won't do a reach out, or they just won't post, or they won't follow up with their dream teamer. I have people that consistently, month after month, avoid doing those things, right? But it's called creative avoidance because they always have a good reason. In their mind, they always have a good reason why they don't do it, why they don't meet the deadline. They always have a reason. That's creative avoidance. How many of you guys, I'm telling you, we have tons of neighbors, we have tons of friends, we have tons of coworkers, we have tons of family members that are suffering in life because they're losing to temptation, to creative avoidance, to distraction, to indulgence, to apathy, to procrastination. But how many of you guys, how many of us are suffering from that? I know for me, I should probably be about 15 pounds lighter if I was not creatively avoiding getting my butt up every day and running 3 miles, right? Every day. And so we're all doing it to some degree. You just have to figure out, okay, are you willing to be honest with yourself in identifying the areas where you're doing these things, and then committing to make those changes, right? So the other thing I wanted to share with you before I get into the nuts and bolts is there was another study that I read about 10,000 employees, okay? And it said that the average worker, the average employee, that they self-admitted, so they said themselves that they waste about 2.09 hours each day on non-job related activities, okay? And so what they did is they said, okay, the average, if you look it up, the average salaried employee in this country makes about $51,000 a year. Let's just round it to 50. If the average employee makes about $50,000 a year, okay, and the average person works 40 hours a week, 50 weeks out of the year, they get about average 2 weeks off. That's about $13,000 a year. It's a little bit over $13,000 a year that a company loses per employee per year. Isn't that crazy? So it's lack of productivity, and it's costing the company because of literally, there's just admitting, I'm distracted, I'm flipping, I'm scrolling Facebook. I see it every day in my husband's office. I know he wastes 2.09 hours every day in it's not even an office, it's our meeting room. He's turned into an office. I hope he doesn't hear me. He wastes at least 2 hours a day. At least looking at fishing videos, watching CNN, doing all the things, right? 2.09 hours. So it's costing his company a lot of money because he makes way more than $51,000 a year. And so you guys, we have to understand how much, if that's what it's costing a company, we may not care how much it's costing the company you work for. You should, but maybe you don't. But how much is it costing you in your life and your financial trajectory for your future? Do you see what I'm saying? You have to put it into perspective because you work for yourself when you work your Plexus business. And so This is really, really important when you start to put these types of things into perspective. What distraction, how much it can dangerously sabotage your goals. Distraction, y'all. This little device, it can dangerously sabotage your goals. That's the reason why I'm going to talk to you on Blue in the Face about time blocking. Get a hold of your time. What are you doing every minute of your day? That is how you start to take control of your life, right? This call tonight, y'all, is not supposed to motivate you. Okay. I don't really like giving motivational speeches. That's because motivation is really a lie. The goal is I'm trying to help you shift your mindset.
Yeah.
If you can shift your mindset, I'm telling you, this business is 80 to 90% mindset, 10% skill set, because you are in charge of your finances, y'all. Believe it or not, you're in charge of it. You are in control of your health and the way that you look. You absolutely have the power within you to live the life of your dreams. You have the power to do that, right? No one is in control of that more than you are. You are in charge mainly, though, y'all, of your thinking. You are in charge of your thinking, and you are responsible for your results, right? Another reason why I love this business. And so it's now time to really push past that apathy and to let go of this desire to blame, to give excuses, to always have a creative avoidance reason why you didn't do something, and begin to be willing to commit to making some meaningful behavioral change. That's the reason why I'm doing this lifesaver. I'm literally willing to do whatever it takes to get the majority of this team to shift their mindset as it relates to what it takes to be successful, whether it's in this business or in life. Because if you can take control of that, you literally can do anything your heart desires. You can literally do anything your heart desires. And so at the end of the day, y'all, how committed are you to changing your life for the better? I really want to know. If you're willing to share, put in the chat. How committed are you to changing your life for the better? And what are you actually willing to sacrifice? A lot of people say they're willing to sacrifice stuff, but I'm hard pressed to see a lot of sacrificial things going on many, many times, right? You've got to be willing to make some sacrifices. The great thing about it is these are short-term sacrifices. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But the truth is success is going to come from being tested in the fire, right? You're going to be pushed to your limits and having your character and your confidence shaped, honestly, by these challenging circumstances. That's how you become a diamond, right? But even if your desire isn't to be a diamond, just matriculating in this business and moving your business to the next level, it's that pressure. It's being tested in the fire, being pushed to your limits. That's what creates physical diamonds, and that is what's going to help you to move forward in a business like this, right? The thing with successful people, though, is they really do view problems differently, right? They know that problems are inevitable. They absolutely know that challenges and setbacks, they're hindrances, and that's the way they view them. So they view them the same way you and I do. Like, they're inevitable, they're there, it is what it is. But they know that the more challenges they have, guess what? This is how they think. The higher likelihood they will develop the character required to become great. I'm going to say that again, because a lot of us think when we have challenges and when we have setbacks, we start to question, I don't know that this is for me. I don't know that I should do this anymore. How many of y'all are guilty of this? Anybody? You start seeing your points going backwards. You start seeing you haven't had growth in your business. You've only added 5 people for the year. Oh my gosh, maybe I don't know how to talk to people anymore. No one's responding. Maybe I don't have any influence at all. You start questioning all the things. And the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people, successful people, they view their problems as setbacks and challenges, and they view them as hindrances. But they know that the more challenges that they face, right, the more challenges that they have, the higher the likelihood that they will develop the character. That's the thing that they're fixated on. The more setbacks they have, is the higher likelihood that they're going to develop the character that's required to become great. Y'all, that is noteworthy. Like, you should write that down. Like, put it up, in your office, on your computer, on a board. They know. It's not that they don't have the setbacks, it's not that they don't have the hindrances. It's just that they know, okay, well, all these challenges, this is just setting me up for the ability for my character to be shaped and formed and molded in a way that I will become great one day. And when you become great, it's not because, oh, you're so great, it's because of what you're able to do with the character. You're able to accomplish so many amazing things. You're able to make such an amazing impact on people and within your community. And so, if we can learn to make ourselves do the things that we don't want to do, then we can literally create any result we want in our lives, right? So essentially, people form the habit of doing things failures don't want to do. Okay. So successful people, they form the habit of doing the things, this is kind of harsh, but people who are failures, people who don't succeed in life, and that's the only reason why we're saying they're failures, not that they're bad people. It's just if you either you're succeeding or you're failing. So the successful people have figured out how to form these habits of doing things that people who fail, doing the things that they don't want to do. That's literally it. That's it. Like, that's the call. So I don't know, you may want to hop off now at 8:28, but I mean, that's really it. But I'm going to teach you a couple things about figuring out how to do those things and how to create these healthier habits, right? So it's really the habit that's important. Okay. Success is often, the result of not a lot of major decisions. And a lot of people think that they're like, oh, this person must have done this one big thing to become so successful. But it's less about the major decisions that people make, but more deceptively, y'all. That's why it's deceiving. Success is really deceiving because you think it's a big thing that someone's done, but it's really the aggregate sum of all these small, and like Darren Hardy says in The Compound Effect, seemingly insignificant things over and over and over. That's what made the person become successful, right? Do you know that most people live their lives chasing an invisible finish line?
Mm.
Most people live their lives chasing an invisible finish line. We're all guilty. How many of you say things like, as soon as my kids get a little bit older, as soon as my kids get out of the house, as soon as I pay off this debt, as soon as summer's over, as soon as the kids get out of school, as soon as I finish this certificate or this degree, as soon as I retire, as soon as I get that promotion, how many of us are always living to that next thing? We're always like, oh, I'm going to do better when I get to this place in my life, right? And while some of those things do happen, y'all, the feelings that we are seeking never actually last. So when we get to that place, we're like, oh, okay, well, I actually did get that promotion. And so I said I was going to do X, Y, and Z once I got this promotion or once this happened in my life. But that feeling when it actually happens to you, it's fleeting. It doesn't actually last, right? So at the end of the day, it truly is about the climb. It's about the climb. The whole goal with successful people, it's like they've acquired a mindset that pushes towards a destination, but more than that, they have embraced a mindset that embraces the path and they embrace finding joy in the journey. Okay. So if you don't walk away with anything tonight besides you making a list of 1 to 5 things that you want to do differently in your business, healthier habits that you want to create, I also want you to walk away with thinking about and considering and trying this on for size, finding joy in the journey. Even if it takes you 10, 15 years, finding joy in the journey. I found joy in growing. I mean, did it suck for it to take 7 years to get to diamond as hard as I was working really hard, y'all, like full time, like the whole time, more than full time. It took me a long time to get to diamond. But guess what, y'all? I found joy in the journey. I was like, okay, I've got setbacks, I've got hindrances, I've got circumstances, I've got things that happen, falling backwards, going back and forth, blah, 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 all the things. But I found joy in the journey because I was like, every single time my character is being developed more and more and more, right? And so you have to really, really grasp this concept that self-discipline is the simplest and it is the fastest way to make life as easy as possible. Isn't that so fascinating? It's like it feels like it's like an oxymoron. It feels like it's like, huh, that's really ironic that becoming self-disciplined, and self-discipline means that you are doing the things that normally people don't want to do, right? That self-discipline is the simplest way and the fastest way to make your life as easy as possible. So doing the hard things is how you make your life easier. Absolutely, absolutely true. So now I want to talk to you a little bit about sacrifice. So there, Rory Vaden, I think his name is Rory Vaden, and he did our book club call a couple months ago, the Plexus book club call, and he talked about this specific kind of phenomenon with bulls, with buffalo, and with cows. Okay, I want to talk about this. Some of you that are on the call, you may remember this, but he talked about the way that the world works in nature, and he had a kind of this analogy around these buffaloes and around these cows. And so he said that the way these two creatures, buffaloes and cows, the way that respond in nature, it has really powerful lessons for us. And so he said cows, when there is a storm that comes, okay, they know that the storm is coming from the west. So they head east. So cows will go in the opposite direction of the storm, okay, because they're trying to outrun the storm. The problem though, y'all, is that cows are not really fast, right? They're kind of slow. They live in my backyard, y'all. They graze, they're super slow, okay? And so what eventually happens is the storm ends up catching up with them, even though they're running away from the storm, and they actually end up running with the storm, okay? They actually end up running with the storm. And so that means they're maximizing their exposure to the storm. Do y'all see, are y'all visualizing what I'm saying? And so many of us as humans, we do the same thing every day. The same thing, right? We try to avoid conflict that is inevitable. We try to avoid it. We're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to avoid this at all costs, whether it's a hard conversation, whether it's reaching the things in our business that are hard, right? Any sort of issue that the headspace, the head trash that we deal with every day, we want to avoid that. So concentration, I'll just look at Facebook, I'll just look at Instagram, I'll just watch a Netflix series, I'll do whatever it is to avoid having to do the self-introspection, the personal growth work, the things that I need to do to remove this toxicity from my brain and actually change the neural pathways in my brain so I can think differently. And if I think differently, that means I'll act differently. That means I'll have different results and outcomes in my life. We'll do whatever we can to avoid having to do that, right? And so what he said the buffaloes do, okay, they do something a little bit different. They wait for the storm to cross right over the crest of the peak of the mountaintop, okay? And as the storm arrives, they turn and then they charge directly into the storm, okay? So by running at the storm, they run straight through it as the storm passes overhead. And what that does is it minimizes the amount of pain that they experience, okay? So the problems, y'all, that are procrastinated on, the things that you avoid constantly, they will be amplified. They're only going to be amplified. So some of you, you're like, okay, my business isn't where I want it to be, but I'm just going to wait till the end of the summer. I'm just so busy now. I just got too much going. And then you literally look up 2.5 months from now and you're back behind 500-600 points. And you're like, oh my goodness, my business is way, way worse than I ever anticipated to be. It's because you procrastinated on doing the things so that you wouldn't fall so far behind in your business. And so that procrastination, right? You putting those things on the back burner, those problems that are procrastinated on, they only get amplified, y'all. And we're the ones who end up paying the price. You don't want to have to pay the price. Okay. You don't want to have to pay the price. It was part of what I was talking about in my Tuesday tip. I was like, guys, do the things now to be ready so you can end your month strong, so you can go. So I know I'm going to convention. I did a bunch of reach outs. I've been doing a bunch of reach outs all week. I did reach outs even when I was in Mexico, because I was like, I want to be primed and ready for when whatever this is that drops on Wednesday at convention, that I'm ready to go, right? Because I don't know about y'all, but I have goals to reach. And so it is really important you do those things now to get ready for that. Okay. So if only more of us, y'all, would actually, we would look at life's issues, we would view them as inevitable and look at these unavoidable problems the way that the buffaloes do. If we took things head on. And so remember that analogy when you kind of want to tuck tail and run and become an ostrich, put your head in the sand. Don't do that. You want to face things head on because procrastination is only going to amplify an issue, right? And so when we start to make these hard decisions, when we face an issue in life, there are two, this is something you may want to write down. There are two opposing sets of criteria that typically influence our choices. Okay. So when we face an issue, we have two opposing sets of criteria that typically influence our decisions, the choice that we make. Okay. One part of our brain is processing our emotions and impulses, encouraging us to make the choice based on what feels good. This is what we do. We have a part of our brain that processes our emotions and impulses and encourages us to make the choice that is based on what feels good. Okay. But then there's another part of our brain that is analytical. So we've got this impulsive, emotional side of our brain, and then we have another part of our brain that's analytical. And this is when the part of your brain is evaluating what is actually rational and quietly asking us to consider what makes sense logically. Okay. These two forces are in a constant tug of war. Are y'all feeling me? Do some of y'all relate to what I'm saying? It's a constant tug of war that your brain is having, right? It's this back and forth in opposite directions, right? We know what we should do. We know what we should do, but we also know what we feel like doing, right? We know what we should do, but we also feel what we'd like to do. And most of the time, those are two totally different things. Okay. Our human tendency, y'all, is to make the decision based on the force that is most substantial right here and now. And guess what? In the short term, this is what's so powerful about the brain. In the short term, our emotions, our feelings, and our impulses, guess what, y'all? They almost always outweigh what? The logical considerations. Almost always. Almost always our emotions, our feelings, and our impulses, they are going to outweigh the logical considerations, which is why the vast majority of people make decisions based on emotions and impulses. That's the reason why that happens. And so these choices are really easy in the short term and are very often they're in direct conflict with what makes life easy in the long term. So the emotional choices are easy to make in the short term and they feel good, but they are almost always in direct conflict with what makes life easy in the long term. Okay, and that's what the irony here is. What seems easy and what feels good in the short term, can y'all make sure you meet yourselves? The irony here is that what seems easy and what feels good in the short term usually doesn't last long. Okay. And so think about that, y'all. Successful people know that making decisions based on what feels good in the short term, that it's often a deceiving shortcut that requires more work in the end. So they don't do it. They don't take that road because they're like, you know what? I know this trick. It's the trick of the enemy. I'm not going to fall into this lie. That's what this is. So I'm going to make the sacrifices now. I'm going to do the hard things now. And that's really what's called the pain paradox of decision making. It's called the pain paradox of decision making. It states that the short-term easy leads to the long-term difficult. Okay, I'm going to say that again. The pain paradox of decision making states that the short-term easy decisions lead to long-term difficult life, while the short-term difficult decisions lead to the long-term easy. Isn't that such a paradox? But it's so, so true. And think about it in every aspect of your life. And you'll be like, oh yeah, she's right. This is not just some hocus pocus made up stuff. This is It's literally across the board. It's not just plexus in every area of your life, right? And, and so successful people know that feelings and impulses don't need to last long because they're short term, right? And so while most people make these decisions based on their short term emotions, successful people, they make those sacrifices because they base their decisions on long term logic. So I want you guys to start changing your brain, shifting your mindset to start making decisions based on long term logic. The crazy thing about this, y'all, which is why I want you to go watch the Heal documentary on Amazon Prime. It's because, y'all, honest to goodness, most of this that I'm talking about tonight with y'all, some of y'all are saying, oh, yeah, I can identify. I'm gonna make sure everybody's muted. Please mute yourself. Hold on. Okay, sorry. Most of this thinking is happening where? It's not even happening in our conscious mind, y'all. How many of you are making decisions and you think you're making the decision, but your subconscious mind has already decided? You know, that impulse, that emotion, that's happening in your subconscious mind. But guess what? You have the ability to start thinking about your thinking. You actually have the ability to do that, to think about your thinking. And so that's why this is such incredibly important and vital information for you to have if you want your life to look different 5, 10, 15 years from now, whatever that looks like, right? And so I'm going to end with this, right? We spend so much of our lives trying to make things easier and avoiding things that are difficult in the short term without even realizing that much of the time that we spend thinking about it, it's the very behavior that makes things worse in the long term, right? Mulling over stuff, procrastinating, hemming and hawing, all the back and forth. And so success really is the aggregate sum total of these small, insignificant, seemingly, they're not insignificant, but seemingly insignificant choices that when compounded over time, they really do create the trajectory for our lives. And so how many of you get excited when you can, how many of you are emotional eaters or emotional shoppers? Like, I do like retail therapy. Like when I'm having a bad day, I go, I hit the outlet or I hit the TJ Maxx or Target or whatever. This is what I do. This is my issue. And so I see a couple people raise their hands. And you may do something different. Okay. I don't know. Maybe you do have a healthy habit where you go on a run if you're stressed or whatever. If I'm stressed, I usually go shopping. And so when I go shopping, y'all, and this is the reason why I have so many doggone returns I have to make, because in the moment I'm emotional and I'm like, I justify making all the purchases, even if it's a $5 dress. I make all the decision making and all of this, the justification of why I'm buying this, that, and the other. And I go on the spending spree. And so it feels good in the short term, right? But then I get home and I'm like, I don't even have anywhere to hang these dresses. I literally am probably gonna wear this one time and I don't need this. And so I take half of it back, right? Did you know, this is very interesting, and I'm going to end with this. Did you know that 1 out of every 9 12-year-olds has a credit card? They carry a credit card. I know. 1 out of every 9 12-year-olds carry a credit card. And did you know also that 18 million college students in the US have credit cards? And that according to Sallie Mae, 82% of them don't pay off their credit card balances each month. And so we are, as a society, my whole point of telling you that and connecting it to the spending spree and all of that I tend to do. I don't have any credit card debt, thank God. Like we got rid of that 15, 17 years ago when we first got married. But most people aren't in that position. They're racking up credit card debt. They have more month than they have money, and they're spending it, and it's not even their own money because it's a creditor's money, right? And so they are creating these young kids. We're teaching. So the reason I'm telling you this is because we're teaching our kids as a society. We're teaching our kids. We're creating these difficult long-term consequences in every area of our life, every area. And so I just want to encourage you guys, make the commitment today to decide there are 2 sides of your brain. It's the impulsive, the emotional side of your brain, and it's the other side of your brain that's more analytical, that wants to make logical decisions. Force yourself. It's going to take you thinking about your thinking, y'all. Don't just make a rash decision. Think about your thinking. It's so easy to copy because most of that's happening in your subconscious mind. But these things are so important because this is how you're going to be able to actually make the sacrifices that are necessary to make the commitment to yourself and in your business for you to take, wherever you are and get yourself to where you want to be. So anyway, I hope this was helpful for you guys. I'm committed to ending at 8:50, even though I barely scratched the surface, and this will probably be a series as well. But love you guys. Cannot wait to see so many of you at convention. It's going to be an absolute blast. And I will see you guys soon. Bye, everybody.
Wow, thank you. This was such a blessing.
Thank you.
Thanks,
See you guys later next week.
Yeah.
Next week.
Great